Okay, we're back at the leaf. We've got our hanger. I know I said this is for the water feature, but what I do is I like to install a hanger on every single one, except for the ones I do on the levitating leaf thing. It just gives people the option. If they like the leaf, a lot of people like to just hang it on their deck or on their fence. So you're just gonna find a spot about in the center of the leaf. I like to wiggle it down in a bit, and then I take a little bit of my mix and just work it around on top and in the front. Make sure too that it's sitting up, that it's not lower than the top of your leaf, or the person's going to have a problem hanging it because the back of the leaf is going to hit onto their wall. So sometimes you have to move your hanger back a bit. So I know this is a heavy leaf, but believe it or not, that's enough reinforcement there for the hanger. I've had some hanging for 4 years. There's no rust, no cracks. It's holding up really nice. So there it is. That's the finished product there. So now I just want to say one more thing. So, I mean, there's not much left there, but if you do have your leftover, I mean, be useful with your product there. Always have a good idea is DIY molds, is to have a few of your smaller molds on site or ready to go, or a few small latex molds, and use up the last of your product. Don't be throwing your stuff in the garbage when you could be making money out of what's left in your bowl. Okay, so we'll go on to demolding now. Okay, now through the magic of television, we're going to go on to the next step, which is demolding. So this is one I made yesterday afternoon, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's about 10:30 now in the morning. So now, what I didn't say is it's important to cover your project. So I'm just going to take the plastic from this guy here, and you want to cover your project that you just finished. You don't want it, especially in the summertime, if it's warm or your shop's warm. Try not to do this outside in the sun. You're going to have nothing but headaches because your mix is going to start setting up too quick. So try to make sure you're in the shade at least, and don't do it in the afternoon when it's really hot, okay? Okay, so here we go. Here's the one that we finished yesterday. So you can see it's about the same as this one. It's almost the same size here. So now you can see it's quite green. There's other websites and other people I've seen showing how to do leaves, and they say just to leave your project for 3 or 4 days. The problem I found is what happens is your leaf gets really dry and it can stain. It leaves a rust stain on your concrete. Also, those membranes that are going through it, they turn like wood, and they're almost impossible to get out, and you wind up spending weeks before you can get all the little pieces out of it. So I like to do it right away the next day. A little trickier to handle, but you do get the idea, the sense of it. You got to imagine if you have a bigger leaf, you might need someone to help you if they can get pretty heavy. But what I like to do is I like to go from the back end, reach my hand under, and all I'm doing is I'm scooping some of that sand out from underneath so I can get my hand in closer to the center of the leaf. So then I'll go ahead and pull out my plugs. If they don't want to come out, just leave them. But I like to pull them out if I can, get them out of the way, because you're going to be using that surface to flip your leaf over onto, and you don't want anything in your way. See, that one didn't want to come out. He can come out. This one's stubborn, so he can stay. So now I've made a little pocket underneath of the sand where I can get my hand into. So all I'm going to do is come underneath with my hand, give it a little lift, get my hand, try not to touch any edges. And now I've got my hand underneath, try not to grip the plastic like I just did. So there we go. So now you've got your leaf up. I put my hand on the back, flipping it over from the center. I'm not touching any of the edges. Keep both hands underneath. Now set it right back again on top of your sand pile. Okay, and then you're ready for demolding. So just remember, it's very green, it's very fragile, okay? So all I start doing is pulling the edges off. Now, sometimes they demold really easy, and sometimes they can be a bit of a bear. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's the leaf, or your mix was a little different, but sometimes they can be a little difficult. So you can see this one's coming off pretty nice if I just go around the perimeter. So don't worry about things like that. They just fall off. So you can sort of see how quickly this goes for demolding. Okay, and you take all your pieces, just get them out of your way, the large pieces. So now, this is where your picks are going to come into play. So what I like to do is you have to be careful. You have to press with some force, but not too much because you can penetrate right through your project. So I just like to score down the lines where all the membranes are. You'll see it's like I connect the dot. You see all the lines? You're just going to draw down with your pick. So now what I like to do is you take your air compressor, and it does a lot of the work for you, pulling the leaf pieces off. It helps raise, it blows out the membranes, so it helps you to be able to grab them and to lift them out without doing too much damage to your leaf. So then, with the remaining that's in there, is you're just going to go in with your pick, and you're going to start trying to pick up the little membrane with your pick, pulling it out. What I like to do is go back to these little Y axes here, axis I should say, and that's usually a good place to pick up because you're picking up two membranes at one shot there like this, and you're pulling them up and give it a little clean out. The center one's always your biggest one, it's the one you got to work the hardest on, but all in all it usually goes pretty fast. Like within 5 minutes you should have your leaf stripped and out. Okay, so total elapsed time, that was only about 3 minutes from when we last cut away there. So there's just a couple little pieces left. Most of the work was done by the air compressor. Just go in and clean off the last little bits, and then you've got your stem piece. Usually just wiggle gently and it will come out. Sometimes it can be a little stubborn. What you can do is cut it with your X-Acto knife or craft knife on the inside and get some needle nose pliers and give it a little tug in sections and it'll pop right out in there. If you leave it in, it will get woody and it does get a little harder to pull out. So here you can see, that's it. It's totally finished now. So what I like to do now is I take my stone rasps and I'll just go around the edges. If there's any loose little bits hanging off, it comes off really easy because your project's quite green still. So I just like to give it a quick little look to see if something looks a little untidy on the edges and break these little bits. That stuff that's come from going over the edge of the leaf when you're putting your concrete on, they just slide right off with your fingers. So just if it's a little rough like here, I like to come in and just smooth these little areas out a little bit. Being a little bit careful because you can knock a big chunk off, so just be gentle, just go around. Okay, and I give it one more quick blow. Okay, something else I didn't include in my tools at the beginning was, remember I said don't worry about the nylon fibers that are sticking out on the sides? It's because you're just going to take your blowtorch, obviously not going into your plastic, hold it up, and just go around the perimeter of your piece, and that takes care of all the nylon. Sometimes there's exposed in the center, just give it a quick hit, and then they all just melt away, vanish. There's no traces left. So there we go. That's it. That's one completed leaf. And that didn't take too long at all. So I hope this helped you out. I'll do more tutorials coming up. There's quite a big line of products that I do just using the leaves to give you some idea. But here you can see the hole where the hose would go for the waterfall feature, and the water will cascade down into another leaf. We have people buy 3, 5, 7, 9 cascading into each other. They're a pretty cool feature at somebody's house. Okay. Okay, I'll just show you quickly. This is just some of the other projects that I'll try and cover most of them in further tutorials. This is just some small bird baths or a dish for a picnic table. It's cabbage leaves. This is Melissa. This is Reaction, is another crazy leaf that I grow here on site. They still need to get a color wash. We've got a big craft show, a 3-day craft show coming up, so I'm working on show pieces for our tables. So these are ligularia leaves, giant ligularia. They can be shaped into pots, into holes, into bowls, sorry, and planted. Some more rhubarb. Over here we have, this is my favorite leaf. This is the Gunnera leaf, very common, I think, Great Britain. You fellows over there have probably seen it. They can get massive, 3 to 4 feet, even 5 feet wide. It's a beautiful expressive leaf, if there's such a thing as an expressive leaf. This is one of them. So this is going to be just a base coat. It's going to get about 5 or 6 dry brush colors on top of this. This is the Japanese rhubarb leaf. It's going to be like a fall colors. I'll do update photos in the next couple of days when I finish these pieces off. This is going to look like a fall leaf. Here's for the levitating leaf that I showed in one of my other posts. You can see here, it's a couple days old. It's got the mounting bracket underneath that mounts onto the thing. But you can see the size of this one. It's heavy. This is a labor of love here. This is a cabbage reconstruction to reconstruct the whole head. It was very difficult to do. 90% of it was done in one casting and one shot. So this is something that Guns had mentioned in some of his postings too. What's important is after the leaves, these are done in the last 2 days, all of these leaves here. So these 3 here are just some of the different bird baths I do. I do a deep version, shallow version. I try not to make them look alike. The more unique and different they look from each other, the better selling. People really love to be able to pick out their own style and size. So what Guns had mentioned, what I do is I like to, for about 3 to 4 days after, is I have my little pump sprayer, and then 2-3 times a day if I'm walking by, I pull the plastic off and I'll give them a good spray down, because you want them to wet cure, you want them to cure slowly, not in the sun, obviously. So I'll give them all a good wet, then I'll cover it up with the plastic again, and then in the afternoon I'll come back and give it another shot, and then maybe one more shot before I go home for the day. So that's it. I hope this has helped any of you. Any questions, please post them on the blog, and I'll be happy to answer, and in the next few weeks I'll try and post another one. Thank you. So it was also very important, I was saying, about the consistency of your mix that you want, like to be ball shaped, but for Wren, Mr. Wrenism, this one's for you. Portland.